Welcome, everyone, to Evolving Workplace, where we're not just gazing into the future of work, we're dissecting the now that's shaping it. I'm your host, Aleister Avila, and today we're going to tackle a big idea that often, we tend to think as a buzzword. And more specifically, what I'm going to be talking about is what's the difference between the future of work and the evolving workplace? Um, the future of work is sort of an established term out there. The evolving workplace, it's not as much, right? We hear it in a variety of articles, but more often than not, we hear about the future of work. So, what's the difference between these two terms from my perspective, right? Especially because I am doing a podcast called The Evolving Workplace. But more importantly, why does this distinction matter? Okay, I don't want this to be a semantic exercise. What I'm proposing is sort of like an understanding of what these terms mean and what perspectives they each, they're each valuable, but what perspective they each helps us, have and take hold of. Because for the most part, each perspective will have a different ways of, questions to ask and voices that we hear from, whose voices we actually hear from, and how we think about the role of work in our lives. Okay. So let's start with the familiar phrase, the future of work. At its core, it's a very strategic concept, and that's really good because it's a framework that helps us understand how a variety of factors will impact the future of work, right? How will reshape how we work and what happens to work in usually 5 to 10 years. So, it looks at factors like technology, automation, demographics, globalization, all of those things that are important for us to consider and that actually have an impact in the future of work. So if you think of, McKinsey, Gartner, and the World Economic Forum, they all produce reports and forecasts trends like, the rise of AI, the demand for soft skills, and so on and on. Uh, McKinsey defines the future of work as an informed perspective on what businesses and other organizations need to know about how work could shift. Okay. And Gartner defines it as changes in how work will get done over the next decade, influenced by technological, generational, and social shifts. So, in essence, again, it's a framework for anticipating and designing the next chapter of work. Okay. It helps us rethink about how work is going to look like. So, it's forward looking, it's system level, and it's often framed around questions like what jobs will exist in 10 years, what skills will we need, how should we prepare for that? Okay. Now let's contrast that with the evolving workplace. And when you start thinking about that, the concept of evolving, it is not so much about the future, right? It's about the past, the present, and maybe perhaps the near future, right? It's less about forecasting in the distant future, but it's more about tracking the real time transformation in happening right now in how we behave at work, culture, expectation, values, etc., right? So we usually ask, what's shifting in how we show up to work now? How are we reimagining a whole variety of, work phenomena like collaboration, trust, and purpose? And all of these are questions that we are also hoping to answer when we think about the future of work, but they're more future oriented, more distant in the future, right? And the term evolving workplace is found in a variety of articles out there. You'll find them, um, but it's not as established as I said before as the future of work is. So it might not be a formalized term in academia or in consultancy, but it's definitely gaining traction. And one way to know that it's because now we have not just a podcast called Evolving Workplace, but we also have people talking about the evolving workplace as a result of what we experience with COVID, for example. That although people forecasted it, it was probably a niche section of society. Researchers in that field knew that this would happen. The government prepared it as best as they could for the future pandemic that could happen at any time. But we did not necessarily, meaning organizations and companies did not necessarily prepared for that. So that came to us with a great deal of surprise. And as we were dealing with it, the work was evolving, right? So what this term conveys is that work is dynamic. There's an ongoing transformation of work environments, right? So the lens of the evolving workplace is grounded in the present and not just the predicted. I love that. I love that term or that phrase. So when we think of similarities and differences, I think for the most part, the orientation of each is really what's mostly different. One is forward looking and often predictive, the other one is uh, present tense and adaptive, right? Um, the other thing is, maybe it's narrative, how we talk about it. The future of work is about what's coming and how we prepare for it. The evolving nature of work or the evolving workplace, it's about what's happening now and how we are experiencing it, how we're navigating it, right? How are we dealing with it as we speak and in the near future? Because we have to make decisions about the evolving nature of work. So the other difference too is, who is, mostly, defining what each one of these are. The future of work is often led by institutions, economists, technologists, consultants, etc. The evolving workplace is bottom up. It's shaped by us, by the way that we do work every day, by our responses to demands, our environment, right? So one is about readiness, that's the future of work, and the other one is about responsiveness, the evolving workplace. One predicts what might happen, the other helps us understand what is already happening and how we feel about it. So why does this distinction matter, right? Um, I think one of the most evident answers is that if we only focus on the future, then we obviously risk missing what's unfolding right now. Okay. We do not just need to forecast a distant tomorrow. We need to reflect and we need to shape what's already happening around us, in front of us. So they're both important, the future of work and the evolving workplace, understanding what might happen 5 to 10 years from now and really understanding how what's happening now is shaping how we work and how we need to respond are both important types of analysis. But it also, the evolving workplace reminds us that the future isn't just something we wait for, right? It's something we co create right now, every day, in every meeting, every conversation that we have. So I'd like to invite you all to think about what's evolving in your workplace. Okay. Um, what new rituals are being created? What are some of the tensions that you're experiencing or some shifts that you're noticing? I'd love to hear from you. Okay. Think about that and send me your stories, your reflections, or your questions. You can contact me via the evolvingworkplace.com website, or you can comment on the different podcast applications and platforms that I'm in. And if you found this episode thought provoking, although it was very short, share it with someone who's not just planning for the future, but living the transformation right now. And that would be all of us. Okay. Next time, in the next episode, we'll talk a little bit about how to make sense of the evolving workplace. Not only through research or reading research articles or articles in general, but how can we use our own experience to reflect on the evolving nature of work and what we need to do about it? So until next time, I'm Alistair, and this is Evolving Workplace.